Okay, the next couple of chapters are a little tricky for a couple of different reasons. Ezekiel 26 to 28 is a long statement against Tyre and against the king of Tyre. And there's a couple of little... Boy, that was quite a draft. I don't know if the microphone, this camera picked that up, but there was a very loud creak over there, and it was a draft coming in through the door. Tyre was a city in Phoenicia. Okay, so we had Philistia, which we just got done reading about. And the Philistines were actually immigrants to this area from somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea. And they settled on the coast, and the southern coast of Israel. So the north of Israel was the Phoenician area, the leftover remnants of the people who used to live in the area a long time ago. And they lived in the cities on the northern coast, north of Philistia on the coast. And their capital cities were Tyre and Sidon. And we're going to read about Sidon at the end of this section. We're going to read about Tyre mainly. Tyre was actually an island city. Tyre itself was off the coast on some sort of little island. And it was, because of this, it was extremely, extremely, extremely hard to conquer. In fact, it was basically impossible to conquer, and it didn't get conquered until the days of Alexander the Great in the 330s BC. So this section is going to be talking about the fall of Tyre, and it's going to be attributing it to Nebuchadnezzar, who will besiege Tyre for a long time, and will take control of the coastal areas. But he will not destroy the city of Tyre itself. In fact, later in Ezekiel, we're going to read, when we get to the section about Egypt, we're going to read that God is going to give Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar to pay him for not getting anything from Tyre. Nebuchadnezzar is going to spend a lot of the time and effort trying to take Tyre, and ultimately isn't going to be able to do it. So this section here in Ezekiel 26 is fulfilled in a couple of different... This is one of those sections where the fulfillment occurs at different times over the course of history. And we're talking about like as it's happening all at once. But it doesn't happen all at once. Nebuchadnezzar does not destroy the city of Tyre. He will besiege it. He will conquer that area, that coastal area, but he will not get the city of Tyre itself. Yet we're going to be talking about him as though he does. Later on, and when we talk about Egypt, we're going to be acknowledging that Nebuchadnezzar does not actually get Tyre. Somebody else will. A guy named Alexander the Great will get Tyre. He'll end up doing it by building a bridge or a causeway out to the island, so he can, the little island nation that Tyre itself was built on, so he can reach it by foot. That's what his strategy was. And that causeway actually is still there to this day. By doing that, he permanently altered the geography of that area. So if you look at a map or an image of Tyre today, you'll see that it's attached to the coast by a land bridge. That didn't used to be there. That happened in the days of Alexander the Great when he built a causeway out there. And it stayed there. Like after he took the city, the causeway remained, and it eventually just got added, built up with erosion and winds and the waves and all that. It just became part of the geography of the area and permanently altered the territory there. So this prophecy is talking somewhat about Nebuchadnezzar, who's going to lay siege to Tyre in the years after he takes Jerusalem. But the fulfillment of it isn't going to happen until the days of Alexander the Great, which is 240 years from now, from Ezekiel's time. Also, we're going to be talking about the city itself and the king of the city in very picturesque terms. Okay? I mentioned before about how these prophets spoke in these visions. And these visions, the different parts of these visions as they play out in history, as they get fulfilled in history, don't necessarily always get fulfilled at the same time. But these prophets speak in these visions that kind of picture it as a complete image. We see that when it comes to the kingdom. They talk about this kingdom in a complete picture, but parts of the kingdom were fulfilled at different times. But they're talking about like it's all happening at once. And here we're kind of talking about like it's all happening at once, even though it didn't all happen at once. And we're personifying the city itself and the king of the city in picturesque terms. Ezekiel 26. In the 11th year, so now we're getting another date here. This is a couple of years after our previous date of 24, the 9th year, 10th month, 10th day. Now it's the 11th year, first day, I guess, of the first month, although I'm not sure. In the 11th year, on the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man. Now, something else I need to mention. This section of Ezekiel, when he's talking about the other nations, is not arranged in chronological order. The rest of the book is. And we do still get dates, as we just got done reading. But this part of the book is not necessarily laid out in chronological sequencing. It's not going to matter until we get to the Egyptian sections in chapters 29 to 33 or 32. But just so you know. Son of man, because Tyre has said of Jerusalem, Aha! The gate to the nations is broken, and its doors have swung open to me. Now that she lies in ruins, I will prosper. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, O Tyre, and I will bring many nations against you, like the sea casting up its waves. They will destroy the walls of Tyre and pull down her towers. I will scrape away her rubble and make her a bare rock. Now this won't happen until the days of Alexander the Great. Although we're going to be talking about it as when Nebuchadnezzar is going to do it. He's only going to start the process. He's not going to finish it. Out in the sea she will become a place to spread fish nets. For I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. She will become plunder for the nations, and her settlements on the mainland will be ravaged by the sword. Then they will know that I am the Lord. For this is what the sovereign Lord says. From the north I am going to bring against Tyre Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, king of kings, with horses and chariots, with horsemen and a great army. He will ravage your settlements on the mainland with the sword. He will set up siege works against you, build a ramp up to your walls, and raise his shields against you. He will direct the blows of his battering rams against your walls, and demolish your towers with his weapons. His horses will be so many that they will cover you with dust. Your walls will tremble at the noise of the war horses, the wagons, and the chariots when he enters your gates, as men enter a city whose walls have been broken through. The hoofs of his horses will trample all your streets. He will kill your people with the sword, and your strong pillars will fall to the ground. They will plunder your wealth and loot your merchandise. They will break down your walls and demolish your fine houses, and throw your stones, timber, and rubble into the sea. He may have done this to the cities on the mainland, which it says here. He didn't do this to Tyre itself, and he may have done it to the other Phoenician cities on the coast. I will put an end to your noisy songs, and the music of your harps will be heard no more. I will make you a bare rock. And that's referring to Tyre itself. Again, Nebuchadnezzar will be the one who does that. That's going to have to wait till Alexander the Great. And you'll become a place to spread fish nets. You will never be rebuilt. For I, the Lord, have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to Tyre. Will not the coastlands tremble at the sound of your fall? Tyre was a very big merchant city, and they had ships going everywhere. So they had ports all over the place. They had a port in Spain called Tarshish that we think was what the Bible is talking about when it talks about Tarshish. That was a Phoenician port. That was in Spain. Okay, so they had ships that went everywhere. So when he's talking about the coastlands trembling, he's talking about like all these places and these ports, these colonies, and these cities and the countries that they do business with all around the Mediterranean Sea. Will not the coastlands tremble at the sound of your fall, when the wounded groan and the slaughter takes place in you? Then all the princes of the coast will step down from their thrones and lay aside their robes and take off their embroidered garments. Clothed with terror, they will sit on the ground, trembling every moment, appalled at you. They will take up a lament concerning you and say to you, how you are destroyed, O city of renown, peopled by men of the sea. You were a power on the seas, you and your citizens. You put your terror on all who live there. Now the coastlands tremble on the day of your fall. The islands in the sea are terrified at your collapse. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I make you a desolate city, like cities no longer inhabited, and when I bring the ocean depths over you, and its vast waters cover you, then I will bring you down with those who go to the pit, to the people of long ago. That's the underworld, the dead, the place of the dead, where the dead go. I will make you dwell in the earth below, the bottomless parts of the earth, the underworld, as in ancient ruins, with those who go down to the pit, and you will not return or take your place in the land of the living. I'll bring you to a horrible end, and you will be no more. You will be sought, but you will never again be found, declares the sovereign Lord. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, take up a lament. By the way, a lot of this imagery is going to be used again in Revelation. When we read Revelation, when we get to Revelation, we're going to find that John is tapping into a lot of the imagery here in Ezekiel about this. Because there's going to be a section in Revelation that is extremely similar to what we're just getting done here reading in Ezekiel. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, take up a lament concerning Tyre. Say to Tyre, situated at the gateway to the sea, merchant of peoples on many coasts, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You say, O Tyre, So now the city itself is being personified. As often is the case, we see this a lot, okay? We often personify cities as women, as individual women speaking about themselves. This is a personification of the city in this context. You say, O Tyre, I am perfect in beauty. Your domain was on the high seas. Your builders brought your beauty to perfection. They made all your timbers of pine trees from Senir. Senir, that is Hermon, I guess a mountain of Hermon. They took a cedar from Lebanon to make a mast for you. Of oaks from Bashan they made your oars. Of cypress wood from the coasts of Cyprus they made your deck inlaid with ivories. Now we're talking about as though it's a big, glorious ship. Because Tyre was a city of ships. It was a merchant city that controlled the Mediterranean trade. So they're talking about it as though it's a ship here. Fine embroidered linen from Egypt was your sail, and served as your banner. Your awnings were of blue and purple from the coast of Elishah. Men of Sidon and Arvad were your oarsmen. Your skilled men, O Tyre, were aboard as your seamen. Veteran craftsmen of Gebal were on board as shipwrights to caulk your seams. All the ships of the sea and their sailors came alongside to trade for your wares. So they had the best of everything. They had the best of everything, and they had the best of everybody. They had the best materials and the best people. They did not lack for anything. Why is this, do you think? Well, it's probably because once upon a time, Tyre was actually a pretty strong ally of Israel. There was a guy named Hiram, the king of Tyre in the days of David, who was a very strong ally of both David and Solomon, and he provided a lot of the material and a lot of the labor necessary to build the temple. We're going to read about that indirectly in a bit here. And that's probably, and that goes back to the whole blessings and cursings. Those who bless Abraham will be blessed by God, and those who curse Abraham will be cursed by God. There was a time when Abraham's descendants were blessed by the king of Tyre and his people. So I believe, and as a reward for that, God blessed Tyre. Tyre had the best of everything. They had the best stuff and the best people. Men of Persia, Lydia, and Put served as soldiers in your army. They hung their shields and helmets on your walls, bringing you splendor. Men of Arvad and Helek manned your walls on every side. Men of Gamad, wherever that is, I don't know where some of these places are, were in your towers. They hung their shields around your walls. They brought your beauty to perfection. Tarshish did business with you because of your great wealth of goods. They exchanged silver, iron, tin, and lead for your merchandise. Greece, Tubal, and Meshech traded with you. They exchanged slaves and articles of bronze for your wares. Men of Beth Togarmah exchanged workhorses, war horses, and mules for your merchandise. The men of Rhodes traded with you, and many coastlands were your customers. They paid you with ivory tusks and ebony. As I said before, Ezekiel mentions a lot of places that we don't hear mentioned very often in the other prophets. And we're seeing an example of that here. He's kind of reaching deep into his knowledge of the world of that time. And we don't hear a lot of these names mentioned in other places in the Bible. Aram did business. We do hear Aram. That's an old name. The Arameans, the people who are north of Israel. They fought against them a lot in the past. We were reading about. That's not an obscure name. Some of these names are kind of obscure, but that's not an obscure name. Aram did business with you because of your many products. They exchanged turquoise, purple fabric, embroidered work, fine linen, coral, and rubies for your merchandise. Judah and Israel traded with you. They exchanged wheat for minneth and confections, honey, oil, and balm for your wares. Damascus, because of your many products and great wealth of goods, did business with you, and wine from Helbon, and wool from Zahar. Danites and Greeks from Uzal bought your merchandise. They exchanged wrought iron, cassia, and calamus for your wares. Dedan traded in saddle blankets with you. Arabia and all the princes of Kedar were your customers. They did business with you in lambs, rams, and goats. The merchants of Sheba and Ramah traded with you. For your merchandise they exchanged the finest of all kinds of spices and precious stones and gold. Haram, Cana, and Eden, and merchants of Sheba, Asher, and Kilmad traded with you. At your marketplace they traded with you beautiful garments, blue fabric, embroidered work, and multicolored rugs with cords twisted and tightly knotted. The ships of Tarshish, there's that colony probably in Spain that I was talking about earlier, serve as carriers for your wares. You are filled with heavy cargo in the heart of the sea. Your oarsmen take you out to the high seas, but the east wind will break you to pieces. In the heart of the sea. Your wealth, merchandise, and wares, your mariners, seamen, and shipwrights, your merchants, and all your soldiers, and everyone else on board will sink into the heart of the sea on the day of your shipwreck. The shorelands will quake when your seamen cry out. All who handle the oars will abandon their ships. The mariners and all the seamen will stand on the shore. They will raise their voice and cry bitterly over you. They will sprinkle dust on their heads and roll in ashes. They will shave their heads because of you and will put on sackcloth. They will weep over you with anguish of soul and with bitter mourning. As they wail and mourn over you, they will take up a lament concerning you. Who was ever silenced like Tyre, surrounded by the sea? When your merchandise went out on the sea, you satisfied many nations. With your great wealth and your wares, you enriched the kings of the earth. Now you are shattered by the sea in the depths of the waters. Your wares and all your company have gone down with you. All who live in the coastlands will be appalled at you. Their kings shudder with horror, and their faces are distorted with fear. The merchants among the nations hiss at you. You have come to a horrible end, and will be no more. I'm going to go ahead and finish this section with one video, I think. The word of the Lord came. So that's the city itself. That's the country personified in one city, Tyre, personified as a ship. Just this glorious picture of beauty and commerce and success and camaraderie with the nations. Again, they probably got this because once upon a time they blessed Israel. The people of Tyre, once upon a time, blessed Israel, and I think God will then in turn bless them. But now they're cursing them. When Judah falls and Jerusalem falls, they celebrated that, so now they're going to be cursed. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Now we're singling out a person, not just a city, not just a picture of the people in general, personified as a city or personified as a beautiful ship. Now it's the person. Now, I don't think this refers to any one person. Okay, whether it's Ethbaal or Oakbaal or whatever they called those guys back then. I don't know if this personifies, it singles out or refers to any one person. Again, the fall of Tyre happened in a couple different stages over the course of a long time. So I don't think we can identify any one person here. But he's again, as we said before, as we've seen this narrative device used before, we're personifying the king of Tyre in this poem here. In the pride of your heart, you say, I am a god. I sit on the throne of a god in the heart of the seas. But you are a man, and not a god, though you think you are as wise as a god. Are you wiser than Daniel? Remember, there's a reference to Daniel again. We saw Daniel mentioned back, I think, in chapter 16, along with Noah and Job. This is now 11 years into Ezekiel's captivity, and Daniel went into captivity even several years before Ezekiel did. So Daniel has had 20 plus years now to become well known as a wise man in Babylon. Are you wiser than Daniel? Is no secret hidden from you? Daniel was a revealer of secrets. He revealed Nebuchadnezzar's dream to him in the way that Joseph did back in the days of Pharaoh. So Daniel had a reputation for being a wise man and a revealer of secrets. So this fits the Daniel we know in the Bible. We'll read Daniel, of course, next after we get done with Ezekiel. Is no secret hidden from you? By your wisdom and understanding you have gained wealth for yourself, and amassed gold and treasure and silver in your treasures. By your great skill in trading you have increased your wealth, and because of your wealth your heart has grown proud. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Because you think you are wise as a god, I am going to bring foreigners against you, the most ruthless of nations. They will draw their swords against your beauty and wisdom, and pierce your shining splendor. They will bring you down to the pit, and you will die a violent death in the heart of the seas. Will you then say, I am a god, in the presence of those who kill you? You will be but a man, not a god, in the hands of those who slay you. You will die the death of the uncircumcised at the hands of foreigners. I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Now this section here is often attributed to Satan. People like to say that God is talking to Satan here. I don't think he is. He's talking to the king of Tyre again. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you, ruby, topaz, and emerald, chrysolite, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Now, what does this mean? Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, until wickedness was found in you. This probably is referring to the fact that they were instrumental in developing the temple. I don't think this is referring to what Satan was doing before God made the world, before anything. Yeah, I don't think that's what this is referring to. I think this is referring to the fact that the king of Tyre in David and Solomon's time, Hiram and his people, provided a lot of the resources and a lot of the manual labor to build the temple. And the temple itself was probably designed in the Phoenician style. And the temple, if you remember, the tabernacle, even when Moses made in the desert in Exodus, and the temple both were designed to evoke images of the garden. They had the cherubim and the palm trees and the pomegranates worked into the designs of the curtains of the tabernacle and the walls of the temple. So whenever you entered or came near the temple complex, even the tabernacle, back when the tabernacle was still around, you were supposed to be bringing to mind the idea that you were entering God's garden again. God was recreating his garden through his dwelling place of the tabernacle and the temple. So that is what is being referred to here in the imagery of Eden, the Garden of God. Ezekiel mentions Eden a few times. Like, this is not an isolated incident in the book of Ezekiel where Ezekiel brings back to mind the garden. And so the idea here is, I believe, that's being communicated is that when the Israelites built the temple, the Phoenicians, Tyre, were instrumental in doing that. They were instrumental in providing a lot of the resources. So they had the privilege of helping the Israelites build God's temple. Again, it was with their resources, it was with their builders, it was with their craftsmen, and it was according to their design. So they did a lot of it. They were responsible for quite a bit of it, which is, I believe, what's being referred to here. So they were very privileged to be helpers in the building of God's temple, which I think is why they were blessed. I think they blessed Israel, and God then blessed them, which is what we just got done reading about. So this, I believe, is what it's being referred to. Tyre had every advantage that a non-Israelite nation could have to have access to God and be close to God. And they were blessed by God for 400 or 500 years. I was in the days of Solomon, which was in the 930s BC. This was now 350 plus years later. So they were blessed by God for a long time because of that. But they eventually fell. They eventually fell. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace to the Mount of God. The Mount of God probably refers to the mountain this temple was built on, Mount Zion. The cherubim obviously were part of the temple design. The gold, the special stones were part of the priest's breastplate. Remember, we read about the outfit that the high priest wore, this breastplate he wore, and the precious stones that were part of that. They represented the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what these precious stones are. Okay, so that's what this is referring to. They were there with the Israelites in God's new garden at his dwelling place in the temple. And they had a place of privilege like no other nation had. And they fell. So I drove you in disgrace to the Mount of God, and I expelled you, O guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you. And I reduced you to ashes on the ground, in the sight of all who were watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end, and will be no more. This is the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, set your face against Sidon. Prophesy against her and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Sidon was the sister city of Tyre, also a big capital of the Phoenicians. I am against you, O Sidon, and I will gain glory within you. They will know that I am the Lord when I inflict punishment on her and show myself holy within her. I will send a plague upon her and make blood flow in her streets. The slain will fall within her, with the sword against her on every side. Then they will know that I am the Lord. No longer will the people of Israel have malicious neighbors who are painful briars and sharp thorns. They will know that I am the sovereign Lord. All these nations were neighbors to Israel. Moab and Ammon and Moab and Edom were neighbors on their east, and Phoenicia and Philistia were neighbors on their west. They were all surrounding Israel. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, I will show myself holy among them in the sight of the nations. Then they will live in their own land which I gave to my servant Jacob. They will live there in safety, and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all their neighbors who malign them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God. So we're turning the attention now from constant judgment and doom and gloom and punishment for the Israelites to future blessings for them. Starting off by punishing the nations around them that tormented them so. We're not done with this section. I gotta leave. I can't stay today, so that's why I'm cutting this off kind of early. But next, we're going to be having a few chapters about Egypt and about all the various judgments that have come upon them for their mistreatment and deception of the Israelites.